Hello, everybody. Matt Bull here, MD of Action Coach in Loughborough, here with another episode of Business Spotlight. And I'm delighted today to be joined by Farrah from Catch a Thief UK. Hi, Farrah. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you, Matt, and thank you for inviting me on as well.
Absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. Right, let's get cracking then. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about what you do and how long you've been doing it for?
So I do an online service called Catch a Thief UK, and we help retailers prevent and detect crime in their retail store.
Amazing. And how long have you been in business for?
So I started this first in 2014, got help by Princess Trust in 2015 that really accelerated us forward. So since 2014, 9 years now.
Amazing, amazing. Congratulations with that. Congratulations. Question I love to start people off on is that success means lots of things to different people, and there's various inspiring figures out there from the business, sporting, maybe celebrity world. When you think about success, who jumps into your mind?
Who jumps into my mind? People like James Caan, so he was the first one to jump in my mind, so I'll mention him. He's been quite an inspiration I read a lot of his posts, comment on a lot as well. He says some really inspirational quotes, and the way he did his business and started as well is very inspirational.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so you mentioned you've been in business now sort of 8-9 years. What's the biggest lesson you've learned, do you reckon, over the course of your time in business?
My biggest lesson is have a lot of passion and make way for the learning, because there's a lot of learning to do and there's a lot of hurdles to get through.
Okay, so be open-minded to the learning.
Yes, because from this beginning, I've completely changed the business model to now, to how it started. So yes, be very open-minded and don't worry, you don't get everything right, but you are learning.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's easily forgotten. So I think a lot of people think it's just a blueprint and you just get on with it and it ends up, being successful. So being able to pivot along the way is really important, isn't it?
Yeah, you've got to be able to adapt, because obviously we started with the Data Protection Act, and then halfway through, so 4 years in, it changed to GDPR. So we had to learn it all again and we had to adapt from there.
Amazing, amazing. And what was it that kept you going then? Because often when change happens, and we know over the last few years with COVID, you've obviously experienced GDPR and stuff like that as well. What is it that kept you going during that time?
So my passion, I love being able to help the retailers. I love being able to give back and help in the communities as well. So that's what keeps me going, just helping others in general.
Amazing, amazing. So 8-9 years in, what are your aspirations for the next 5 years or so for your business?
For it to keep growing, for us to keep reducing theft, violence, and social behaviour, for us to point people in the right direction for the help and support, talk to young people on the actual educate them in the way that that they can see what sort of effect shoplifting has on the communities, on the people around them. This is where we want to go on our next one. So we want to do a whole educational course and, make that forward for young people and other people that don't know. Because when I first started this, I didn't actually know what sort of impact shoplifting had on the community, on the retailer. Most people believe that they have insurance, they can pay for this. It's not an effect, but it does have an effect on everyone around them, including their families as well.
Yeah, I mean,
It raises the cost of the goods in the store for a start off. That's just one effect.
so that wastage and that churn that they have as a result of shoplifting has to be costed in, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. They can't be at a loss. It's a business still. They've still got to feed their families and pay their staff's wages, who's got to go back and feed their families and pay their rent. And how are they going to do that if they've got so much of a loss? It's just things you don't think of.
You're right, you don't, and I'm learning a lot about it at the moment. So was the business always focused on the education about shoplifting in the community, or was it predominantly a sort of crime prevention at the start?
Predominantly, it was crime prevention. That's what we wanted to do. We had this idea. We thought this can work. We trialed it. We've seen it work. So then we started spreading it out a bit more. And then obviously it come to light that it was, the education side is important to let people know what's going on. It became very obvious that the more people I spoke about and said, what sort of effect it had on, they're going, oh, wow, really? That has that effect? And it's like, okay, that's easy for me to answer and say because I know the information, but a lot of people don't.
Yeah. And how do you find, how is developing that deeper sense of purpose and impact? How has that impacted the business?
Um, it hasn't really impacted it like fully. Obviously, we have put provisions in place now. So our audio warning announcement speakers, they will say over the tenor, like if you need help and support, because just like people do steal for food or stuff like that, then go to the staff members, who then we print out a list of help and support in the area. The staff usually lets them use the phone or their computer if they need to get online to access the food banks or the fridges projects. There's loads of different projects in different areas, so we give them all that information and then they pass it on. So we implemented that in there because of that information as well.
Yeah, amazing. So if you think back to when you started the business, or when you first had the idea, and obviously the Prince's Trust is an amazing organisation to help people get things off their own, what advice would you give yourself back then? Looking back at Farrah when you were, dare say 16, 18, what advice would you give yourself?
Be less nervous.
Yeah.
The people are just people, because when I first stepped into it, I was quite young, and it's in the security sector and everything like that. So I was having a lot of meetings with people, and I'd be sitting there like really nervous, really worrying, thinking like these people are like big sort of people, but they're just people.
Yeah.
Like, it don't look like that. It was quite scary, and it was quite hard to get the door open into the security industry at first. But and then once I was in, obviously a lot of people welcomed me, and it's a really nice community to be in.
Yeah, and I think over the years that age thing about starting businesses has definitely dropped and become less of a thing. So I think it's really good advice to your previous self, but also anyone else young, with a great idea like you have, is get out there and get in front of people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So what have you learned about yourself on the journey then? So lessons are great, but what are those lessons then? What is it that you've learned about yourself during the course of the last 8 or 9 years on your journey?
I'm quite good at stuff that I didn't really know I was good at. So spelling was one of them, even though I thought I struggled through that throughout school and everything. But it turns out I'm really good at making documents. So, and I do talk to people quite a lot. So I do realise that there's a lot of talking involved, and I'm quite a good talker as well by the looks of it on certain things. Other than that, like learning about myself, I've been creative in so many different ways throughout the business. So, I've had to do my own leaflets. I've had to make my own website and stuff. These are things that I put in by myself. So, these are all learning curves, because these ain't things I did straight away. I didn't study them at school or anything like that. I had to actually learn it. I had to go through the GDPR and learn that myself, and that was a lot. So there's a lot of different changes, and I did find out that I soak in information better when I read. Some people do it when they watch stuff. Some people do it when they write. I soak in more information if I've got something written in front of me and I'm able to read it.
Very good. Yeah, and it's amazing. A lot of people will go through a career in business without realizing that, are they visual, or some people like to listen, and some people, as you say, like to read it or whatever. So it's a great lesson to have that. Great lesson to pick up. What's the toughest thing about working in the sector that you work in?
The absolute toughest thing would be getting your foot in the door to start with. I think it would be the same now, but we're all open to all these new businesses and everything like this in the security sector. And the first being able to get into there was quite hard for me. I got a lot of shut doors because people already know people in the industry. They already talk and everything like that. So it's quite hard to speak to these new people and get their respect. If they just keep going, and obviously you do earn their respect. There's a lot of security companies that pop up and then they pop back down. So, and that you've got to show your commitment to that industry before they can take you seriously.
Brilliant. And what's the biggest challenge for you over the next 5 years, do you think?
My absolute biggest challenge would be yeah, getting out there a bit more, doing the marketing sides a bit more and everything like that. That's something I wanted to do, but that's a challenge for me because I don't really know that side. So it'll be a learning plus a challenge.
Okay. And for anybody, the Business Spotlight series is designed to educate, but also inspire people who may be thinking about stepping into business. What would you say to anybody thinking about starting a business?
Do it. You got nothing to lose, even if you're starting at zero or whatever. Do it. Talk through it to other people as well. Get their thoughts and opinions back. Don't take everything too seriously as well, because if you take things too seriously, then you just end up in a headbutt and you end up hitting your head against a brick wall. Yeah, and you got to take everything lighthearted. Speak to people, get to know people in the industry, and actually make your connections there. Don't just think it's going to be easy either. You like overnight it's going to be like thousands of orders or anything. You've got to have passion. You've got to keep going forward and moving forward with it. But definitely start it. If you've got a good idea and you think that you can make it, even if it doesn't accumulate to anything, at least you tried and you put it in there. And the brightest ideas come at the end of an old idea.
Oh, and that is a great line to finish on. That's great insight for everybody there. Farrah, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on this episode of the Business Spotlight, and look forward to seeing all of our viewers on the next episode. Many thanks.
Thank you, Matt. Speak soon.
Take care. Bye.